viewers, a top story at The Sun. A 5-member investigating team probing the June 12th Air India plane crash are now looking at possible technical snags that could have led to the fatal accident, killing about 260 people, including 241 on board. Now, this probe will essentially ascertain the possibility of technical snags in the electrical and software components of the aircraft, possibly triggering uncommanded actions. Now, a report in the Daily Leading says that an official said that a pilot flying the aircraft from Delhi to Ahmedabad had noted in the technical log a stabilizer position transducer defect. Now, viewers, essentially this defect is a sensor that controls aircraft pitch and transmits the data in electrical signals to flight control system to ensure that responses to pilot inputs are accurate. Now, the newspaper further reported that the official said that the malfunction was checked and the engineer did do the troubleshooting as per the Boeing procedures. The investigators are now believed to be digging deep into the history of the technical fault as well, or malfunction in the course of aircraft's life. Crucial findings coming in the case. Now, a team has been found who's going to look into the technical snags that could have led to the crash that killed about 260 people. Now, essentially, they're going to look at the possibility of technical snags in the electrical and the software components of the aircraft, which could have triggered in uncommanded actions. Remember, viewers, the earlier report mentioned that the fuel control switches transitioned from run to cutoff shortly after the takeoff, and the report did not mention how did that transition occur. Now, whether or not those transitions took place because of a technical snag, this is what essentially this report is going to be looking at. Now, we also know that the pilot of the aircraft had noted in the technical log a stabilizer position transducer defect. Now, this defect is basically a sensor that controls the aircraft pitch and transmits the data in electrical signals to the flight control system. And now I have with me Captain Shyam Kumar. He's an aviation expert and ex-head of flight safety, Indian Navy and Coast Guard. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here. Now, I want to begin by asking you, Captain, we earlier knew that fuel control switches in the aircraft transitioned from run to the cutoff mode shortly after the takeoff. And now there was this debate going on whether it was done manually or there was a technical malfunctions. So do you think now with this team being formed, we finally have an answer for that question?
Good morning. Thank you. First of all, AAIB report, which has come on 12th of July, indicates a hanging situation in which they are looking at whether it was a human error or a technical snag. Bringing out the report of precedence of the snags that you are reporting. See, I would like to tell you as a flight safety man that every aircraft, the aircraft flying is a complex operation, and there are two kind of incidents and accidents we demarcate between the snags. When we talk about incidents, these false sensors coming up, the control light panel coming up, like we talked about the stabilizer which controls the pitch defect coming up. There are times when these are false warning which are reported by the pilot or observed by the engineer or the ground crew itself and corrected before the flight, or sometime they need to be investigated and defect rectification carried out. Please remember, our audience, that aircraft operations are flight safety requirements are very, very challenging and demanding, and they are foolproof, so as 2 to 3 tier system is maintained in which the observation of defect, then defect rectification, supervision, and the further checks by the engineering officer who is a licensed engineer from DGCA. So these are the actions which are taken for all snags. I'm sure when we are talking about a number of accidents, incidents, because the Dreamliner never had this wide body aircraft never had a fatal accident in its history so far, it's from its inception. So please understand, these are regular processes and they are checked. Actually, the system is made such foolproof that every small defect is reported and it is remedied. it should not go unnoticed. So I don't know. We are saying that whether fuel-related sensors warning or electrical warning or this stabilizer transducer warning coming up, they all are related to this fuel incidents which happened during this particular accident. So I'd say it's a journey to investigate, lot more to find out. But I don't find any unusual activity happening as far as the incidents are concerned. They are reported, recorded, and fault analyzed and read, carried out, briefings to the pilots, to the technical people, and to the company, to the OEM. And this is a circle which is required and is maintained in all aircraft operations.
All right. So what you are essentially saying is that there are multiple checks carried out at different levels. Now, Captain, we also know that the aircraft noted in his technical, the pilot noted basically in his technical log, a stabilizer position transducer defect. So please explain to our viewers, what is this defect essentially, and do you think this could have been one of the reasons behind the crash?
I don't think it is directly related to this fuel cutoff switch, because fuel system, there are separate systems in the aircraft: electrical system, fuel system, airframe system, engine system, fuel computer system, etc., hydraulic system. They all have a safety and redundancies. This particular defect is a defect of the stabilizer, which is controlling the pitch of the aircraft, like up or down position, and it is again electro controlled, and indications come to pilot. So sometimes the switch is okay, the stabilizer is all right, airframe is not defective, but the sensor has malfunctioned and there is a wrong warning given to the pilot. Or sometime, since it is a first indication, the pilot reports and does not take over the aircraft for flying and reports, and then the airframe is checked. If there is a problem in the airframe, it is remedied. If it is not, and just the sensor problem, then the sensor, this is called false warning. So there are false warning which happens. Many things happens. Electrical malfunctions have different requirements and different natural issues also. Sometimes even a small moisture can, give a false warning. So, but then the redundancy is made. They are surely reported. Safe situations are maintained. And then, since it is a airframe defect and a sensor warning, it is not directly related to, engine control. Secondly, the fuel switches which you are showing onto the video onto the screen, these are not switches which automatically can be switched off. They have to be manually switched off by the pilot. They have provision for that. They have to be lifted and put to the cutoff position. So normally it does not happen. It is meant for a safety reason. It is done before the engine is started and when the engines are switched off. In between only it can happen in case pilot has noticed the fire on the engine and he wants to switch it off for safety reason, and then he will carry out a single engine landing or a double engine failure gliding landing. Remember, my audience here, if this aircraft had 3,000 to 4,000 feet of height, the same aircraft with both engine would have probably landed on a field or probably had lesser damage. I am a witness to aircraft of Air India, which landed off Tirupati in the paddy fields in same month of August. And I was the first person to reach by a helicopter to rescue the air hostess, injured an air hostess. I've seen the wings broken. I've seen the undercarriage broken. I've seen a runway made on a paddy field by this huge white-bodied aircraft of Air India in 1993, I think. And Air India off Chennai, I was posted at Arkonam that time, very close to it, about 70 kilometers. And I was flying aircraft when I was told to divert and go to this site where I reached. So I understand if there was a paddy field, so there comes a point of having buildings on the takeoff path. We ensure that we have takeoff landing path clear, but we don't bother for the takeoff path. We must have the takeoff path cone also, which is clear of the heights. And so in case of engine failure at lower height like this, the aircraft could at least attempt a forced landing in front of the land available. And it could be a field, it could be something flat. At least the damages could be better. What happened in Tirupati's accident, we should learn lesson from that.